Alright everybody, it is your titular rogue of the Rogue Saint, and we're here again to talk about Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's been a long time since my last video, and a lot has gone down personally in my life, and in the fandom as well. However, I think it's a great time to return to this subject, given that the show was recently cancelled, and I'd like to talk about why it never really worked for me, and why ultimately I think it's a good thing that the show was cancelled. So let's get into it. The first thing, and arguably the thing that never worked for me from the start, like from the time the announcements were made and those first 4 episodes were released to the public, the weapons. The weapons have never sat right with me. I never liked the change, and it's not because it's different. It's not a case of this is different, therefore it sucks. It's more that there was no groundwork laid for these new weapons. In other versions, I mean, the 2003 series and the 2012 series stand out in particular to me because both of those series had the Turtles getting new weapons. However, they had them get new weapons after learning and mastering their old ones that were given to them by Splinter. And the other thing that bothers me a lot about this is that the weapon choices seem kind of odd to me as well. So, like, again, this is not a new concept. It's been done before. There is precedent. However, it doesn't feel like it was earned. Like, Rise wants to do all this stuff that, other series have done before, but the other series earned it in some way. They just kind of want to hit the ground running with it, and that's just not how you do things. It's just not. And the biggest thing for me is that the weapons are iconic. The Ninja Turtles weapons are so intrinsically tied to the property that changing them seems kind of counterintuitive to me. I mean, you can identify the turtle by just what weapon they have. A pair of sai for Raphael, 2 katana for Leonardo, nunchucks for Mikey, and a bow staff for Donnie. That's my one concession I will grant, and it will literally be the only one, is that Donnie having a bow staff in Rise that's just more technological, and it kind of like can transform into other stuff, and it does all these like cool things. It's got all these accoutrements everywhere on it. Like, that's actually fine. There's not anything wrong with that. It goes along with his character, and I won't be harping on that forever. What I will harp on forever about, though, is that they gave Raphael a pair of tonfa, and that they gave Mikey a fucking yo-yo. Like, okay. I know that it's not literally a yo-yo. It's actually a kusarifundo, which is a real weapon. But the way it operates in Rise is a yo-yo on a stick. Like, it's not a kusarifundo. A kusarifundo is almost like a mace. It's not the exact same as that. Like, it's kind of not the right technical description, but it's similar to a mace. And, the kind that you swing, like, not the ones that are just sticks with a ball on the end, but, like, the kind that, like, spin around, that you can spin with, like, a chain. So it's kind of like that. But the way it operates in Rise is it is like a motherfucking yo-yo. And, like, I know what you're going to say, Rise fans. You're going to
be like, oh, but, it's not, they're all magic weapons, though. They're not just, like, regular weapons. Like, they've got magic in them, too. And, that's so much better. No,
like, again, this is not a new concept. Mystic weapons are, like, another trope that pop up a lot in various incarnations. However, those other incarnations earned it. Like, in the 2012 series, they had to go on a whole ass, journey into the forest and, like, find themselves, like, a whole, vision mystic quest thing. Like, and then in the 2003 series, Hey guys, it's Editing Rogue here. I had a joke about the Ninja Tribunal originally, but it wasn't very funny, like the more and more I thought about it. So I'm just gonna replace it with this small ramble. If um if they were gonna give Raphael new weapons, which like again, like I know that there is precedent for him having Tonfa, he's had them before as his alternate weapon, but I kind of like it when they have him have the Tekokagi, I think is what they're called. They're like the Wolverine looking claws. I think that's more fitting for him, honestly. Like I mean, I get where the Tonfa could show like his growth as a ninja because like yeah, Sai are defensive, but he uses them offensively, and like but maybe it could be maybe more of a character thing to show that like he's really learned how to do more than just attack with brute strength if he can use the tonfa. But I mean, I don't know. That's reading a bit too much into it. Um, and funnily enough, actually, he's had Kusari Fundo, not Kusari Fundo, Kusari Gama, the sickle scythe thing on a chain. He's had that as his alternate weapon before too. Instead of Mikey having it, he's had that in the 2003 series. That was his mystical weapon. But anyway, just wanted to bring that up. Bye. Back to the video. But yeah, like they earned that. Like they mastered their original weapons and then got new weapons um, in those series. But in Rise, what really made me mad, they don't even earn these motherfucking weapons. They literally just find them sitting there. They lose their old weapons and then they just find these new powerful mystic weapons just literally lying there, color coded and everything. Like, stop. Just stop. Like, first off, Raphael having a pair of Tonfa, I like. It's not like I can't see it. It's stupid though because it changes his entire fighting style. It changes his entire way of fighting because the I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, but Sai are defensive weapons, and so are Tonfa, and so like that makes sense. And first off, no, that's not how that works. And secondly, the way Raph uses Sai is offensive. He uses them offensively, and he fights in a very distinct style with them. Actually, me and a friend of mine were having a conversation about this one day, and we came to the conclusion that Raph and Elektra from Daredevil basically have the same fighting style, which is kind of hilarious because they're also both red themed. But yeah, like so again, like it's just it doesn't make sense. Like you can't really having Raph use Tonfa changes his entire. It's not like Leo, where okay, they gave Leo an Odachi, and that's just one sword. Like that's not really going to change his fighting style up too drastically because it's just one sword, um, instead of two. But no, just the weapons just have always sucked, and I feel like the change was made purely for like let's sell toys. And I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, but what the fuck do you think the original was about? And like, yeah, but at least the original where they were all like actually cool weapons. Not to mention, it also has bad character implications. I mean, granted, this entire show has bad character everything, so I'm not surprised. But it also has bad character implications because it takes away from Mikey's character to let him not use nunchucks. Like, he's used Kusari Fundo in the past as well, but his usual weapon besides a nunchuck is Kurisamigama, I think is what they're called. I can't exactly remember what they're called. Apologies to Japan for what I just butchered. But yeah, like nunchucks are actually extremely hard to use in real life, and also like in martial arts. They are very hard to actually use effectively, and that's always said something about Mikey. Is that even though he's like the airhead, he's kind of dumb, he's kind of goofy, he uses the most complicated weapon and he uses it effectively. He uses it masterfully. And that says something that he has like the most natural ability, which I mean, several versions have said that Mikey has the most natural, like innate ability for martial arts. And that if he just applied himself, he would actually probably even be better than Leo. And it's like, but having him use magic yo-yo on like it's and he's like weak as fuck for some reason in Rise. I don't know why they made him like the weak one. That's just never been true in any version at all. So yeah, like I mean, he's probably like the most merciful one. Like, but he's not weak. He's never been like a weak fighter. That's kind of insulting, actually. And speaking of kind of insulting, we are going to be getting into something actually insulting, which is the terrible, 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 fucking, absolutely motherfucking terrible version of Casey Jones. I'm gonna try and stay calm for this, because generally I want to make the energy of this video a little bit more, a little more peaceful than the last one. But nah, fuck this version of Casey Jones though. Like fuck this whole character. Nothing. Okay, first off, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Making Casey a female character was stupid. It served no purpose. It was done purely because they wanted to be like, oh, look, Tumblr and Twitter, look what we're doing. Look, it's a female Casey Jones. Don't you just love it? She's got the lesbian buzz cut, and she's a queen. And it's like, no. For like, first off, this version of Casey is a Foot Clan member, which is just no on several levels because that's not how Casey operates at all. But then again, every character in this version is not themselves, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Casey, who I was wondering about in the beginning of the show, I was like, where is Casey? Like, is he gonna pop up at some point? And then they were like, oh, actually, Casey is this foot grunt who is a girl. And it's just like, I hate it when decisions are made for Twitter and Tumblr. I feel like that's so low effort and just, the worst part is that it fucking worked. Y'all ate it up. Y'all bitches ate it up out here. And you were just like, people were fine. Like, it's just stupid. No, like I had no problem with April being black. That's been done before. There's precedent for that. April can kind of be anything, but Casey is a little bit more set. You know, he has the whole sports theme going on, which and like the vigilante stuff, and none of that is in Rise. None of that is in Rise. The old like the no, and like the worst fucking part about this whole thing is that in the movie they put in a character called Casey Jones the Second, and it's Casey, it's fucking Cassie. That's what I'm gonna call this first. It's Cassie Jones's son, who is basically literally just who Casey should have been in the first place. Like, you don't get points for putting a character in there that should have been there from the beginning. They should have switched it. They should have just made Casey Jones the second, Casey Jones one. And then if they wanted to, then they could have done Cassie Jones later on. But no, like, still, I'm not here for having Casey being a Foot Clan member. That's just not how he operates. I think, putting Casey Jones 2 in there in the movie which came out after the show was canceled, so it doesn't even mean anything anyway. I think that's dumb. And this, if I'm just gonna be real, if this like version never appears again, like in any of the multiverse episodes, or they like never make reference to it ever again, I will not be sad, um, at all. So So what we're going to be moving on to is actually like the main crux of my argument, if you will, against Rice. It's very similar to things I have heard from fans of Star Wars and anyway, it's similar to that critique, but my critique for Rise is that it does not honor what came before. It seems like it was made with the intention of we're going to do everything pretty much opposite, or at least in a worse way than what has been done before. Um, and like I said in my first video on this subject, one of the biggest direct hits to all of this is the characters suffer. They suffer the most because they are robbed of any deeper investigation that you could give into them. And what I have seen people try and explore with these characters, it goes nowhere because there's nowhere for them to go because they're not written well, because they're not written as characters, and they're especially not written as they have been throughout each incarnation. And again, it's not a case of it's different, therefore it sucks. It's a case of and just not understanding the way that these characters work and why they work and why their dynamic works. One very huge argument I've seen from some Rise fans as it comes to the characterization of the Turtles in particular in this series is that they really like how they seem, like the Rise fans will go on about,
they're all so close and so loving, and they really show their appreciation for one another, and that's something we've never seen in any other version. And you know what
that tells me? That tells me even if they watch those other versions, they are too soft, too sensitive, too snowflakey, to put it in the best terms I can think of. Because no, like no, like we the family dynamic of the Turtles has been the core of the story. It's been the core of their characters throughout each version. You can see how they care about each other. Like a big thing I've seen is people will be like, oh, they'll point to the 2012 series usually, and be like,
uh Splinter was like an abusive asshole in that one, and he did this and that and the other thing. He would he'd hit him with his stick, and he'd do this, and he would say mean things and blah blah blah. Or like, oh, it makes me so happy that in Rise the boys don't abuse Mikey. Ain't nobody was abusing Mikey.
ain't nobody was abusing Mikey. That tells me that you've never encountered male siblings. Like you either don't have any brothers or you've never met anybody who has brothers and is also a guy. Because let me tell you, I don't have any brothers myself, but I have a lot of brothers-in-law. And obviously they're all related, and I've seen the way they act around each other a lot. And let me tell you, male siblings, brothers, sets of brothers, that's just how they be. Like, yeah, they smack each other around. Yeah, they call each other names. Yeah, they say some horrendous shit to each other. They do some horrendous shit. They be beating each other's ass. Like, that's just how it is. Like, I'm sorry to bust your bubble here, but like that's just how it is usually. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's how they treat, but like at the end of the day, this set of brothers that I know, you can tell that they all care about each other, even if, and like, I know that's a difficult concept for some people to understand, but like people show their love and stuff in different ways, even if those ways like come out I guess in an unpleasant manner, you could say. But that's just how sibling in the 2012 series. First off, nobody was abusing Mikey. People acting like he was out here like like he was out here just getting done in on. And like no, like okay, they would slap him up against the head sometimes, or like they would call him a name or like call him stupid. And like well, when you're acting stupid, like somebody's gonna call you stupid. Somebody might smack you up against the head, and next to it usually it'll usually be a family member, usually a sibling, and so that just doesn't hold any water to me. The other thing was Splinter being abusive. That's not him being abusive. That's because that's not him as their father. It's not like he comes in like these people. If you read some of these posts, you would think that in the 2012 series, Splinter just like barges out of the dojo drunk on sake, and it's like, what do you motherfuckers better make me a fucking cheese sandwich or it's going down for real. And like that's not like, and then he starts beating him. And Leo's like, oh no, father, like we were right on that. Like no, it's not. That's not it. Like when Splinter is physical with them or uses like physical violence, I suppose is the term, but or like uses a method like that as discipline. That's not him as their father. That's him as their sensei. And that's the other thing that Rise doesn't take into account, and neither do its fans, is that Splinter is not just their dad. He is also their center. He's the person who they learn from. He's also the head of their clan. Granted, in Rise, that don't mean shit. But in the other versions, where the Hamato clan is set up more like a classical Japanese family clan style system thing, that has its own meaning, that has its own weight, that has its own kinds of expectations and interactions. And so when Splinter is interacting with the turtles in that way in the 2012 series, where it seems like he's being harsh, or he's even like pushing them around or doing this or that, that's him as their sensei. That's not has nothing to do with him as their father. And I think it's a great disservice to the emotional depth with which the father-son relationship was treated in not only the 2012 series, but also in the other versions. I mean, like that scene from the 1990 movie where he appears in the flames. Ooh, chills, like chills. Or that scene in the 2012 series where he dies and and the turtles like gather his body up and they carry him away. That's more meaningful to me than any argument you could use to try and bring that down. Because I think that's what this is. You're bringing the level, the heights, and the thought and care and love that was put into these other characterizations of Splinter, particularly the 2012 series version, and you're bringing them down to the level of the Rise version. Because I'm sorry, I don't care how many sentimental Tumblr art posts I see. If it ain't in the show, it don't count. Like I don't see the love. I don't feel it from this version of Splinter. I don't like. Come on, like he calls them by their colors for fuck's sake. For like a good majority of the show, like he doesn't even use their names, and then he wants to be on about like, oh, like you guys aren't prepared. I wonder fuck why they're not prepared, because you didn't prepare, motherfucker. You sat there and watched K-drama. Okay, we're moving on now to. I'll find something else to complain about. Give me just a bit. Oh my gosh, I just remembered something else I could talk about. So, I had a few comments, not really comments, I guess you could say DMs. I've had a few DMs over the past while about how, like, your whole thing about Splinter and, like, how he's the worst, and this is, like, the worst version of Splinter ever. It's just stupid because, like, this, and that from the show. And like, I'm sorry if you think that that's going to convince me. All that did was make me think that this. And now that I've seen the actual show, this is not it. This just isn't it. Like, so you're telling me that you're telling me Rise fans, like not the cool ones, but like the stupid Rise fans. You're telling me that it's more compelling and more dramatic or whatever to have Lujitsu who becomes Splinter. You're telling me it's more dramatic to have Lujitsu be like captured on this planet and for which they use the term battle nexus, and again, it's not in the right context because the battle nexus was a Triceraton thing, and I've not even seen mention of them anywhere. Unless I could have blocked. I mean, honestly, I've probably blocked out parts of the show just for my own fucking mental health. But so like he's forced into this tournament, and he's dating Big Mama, who is just a stupid, superfluous OC character that they came up with. You're telling me that all that bullshit is, and also Splinter has like nothing to do with the creation of the turtles in this version. Of course he didn't. Why would he? That's, that would make too much sense. And also, it's what's been done. Whatever. Anyway. So you're telling me that all this bullshit that Rise did is better than the original origin story? I'm sorry. The original origin story, we all know it. Whether it was, Splinter was the pet of Hamato Yoshi, and then all the stuff went down with Tang Shen and Orokusaki, or whether, he was actually Hamato Yoshi and then Tang Shen, etc. You're telling, like, no, the original origin story is gorgeous, it's dramatic, it's got weight, it ties in the personal lives of the turtles and Splinter into the conflict with the Foot Clan. It makes things so much more deep and like so much more relevant. And it's simple. It's just it's a simple origin story, but in its simplicity, it's actually really beautiful. And I think that doing all this extra that Rise did nothing but take away from the seriousness and the solemnity of the story. So, yeah. But again, this is the worst version of Splinter I've ever encountered. And that includes the IDW version where he like literally was torturing orphans for a while. I would rather fuck with that Splinter than this one. This one fucking sucks. I'm sorry. The Rise Splinter will forever get on my nerves and just forever just be a thorn in my side. So yeah, the new origin story sucks. Sorry. Baron Draxum is a stupid character. Again, he feels like somebody's bad OC that they threw in. Lujitsu is a cool concept for a character, but he's not a cool concept for Splinter. Sorry. Moving on. Alright, so we move on now to our final subject of the hour. I could go on for so long about all my little annoyances and petty gripes with the show, or certain elements of it, or its fans, honestly. But I don't really want to put the energy into that. Because honestly, guys, it does hurt to have to talk about this show this way, because I love this property. I've been a fan of the Ninja Turtles since I can remember, and it's a big thing for me. I don't want to have to talk shit about this new version, because I want better for this series, because I've seen it be so good, and I just love it so much. But I think that all ties into what is really, like I said before, the main issue I have with this show is that it feels disrespectful. It doesn't feel as if it is trying to honor the legacy and the meaning that is usually in. I mean, I've seen like that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Out of Their Shadows video game was more respectful than Rise of the Ninja Turtles is to the legacy of the characters and the world. Fuck, even the Michael Bay movies, which I have no love for, honestly. You know, I do I like them? They're fine. The first one is all right. The second one was good. It wasn't amazing. Like I don't like the best thing about those is that Megan Fox plays April, and that's where they get most of their points for me. Like I mean the 2012 series though was amazing, but so was the 2003 series. So was the 2007 movie, and even some of the like I said some of the worst or worst regarded iterations are more respectful of the source material, and not even just of the source material, but just respectful of the world and the characters, and not only what they mean to people, to the fans, but what they are and who they've been laid out to be. And there's nothing wrong with changing certain elements. There really isn't. But if you're going to change something, you have to first come to respect what it is already. You can't change it without understanding what it already is. Because, like, I have read AUs, and I have even thought of AUs and stuff that, I mean, granted, I'm not going to talk about what I've thought about, but the ones I've read ones that are really, really well done. And sometimes, I mean, they don't even, it's nowhere close to the source material. They might have changed so many things, but what they kept right, what these AUs keep right, is the characters. And that's really what matters the most. It's not how good is the animation, how good is this and that. These are all factors, of course. And good writing, though, uh, it all starts with the characters. You have to know who these characters are, and that's the biggest problem with Rise, is it doesn't feel like it knows who these characters are. It feels like this story could have been slapped on with any kind of nostalgic paint. But that is, in retrospect, the more I think about it, the biggest thing to me about this series. I won't say that, I'm not glad. I am glad that it's canceled. I'm not glad for the fans who will have to, go without. But I think that this will only be a good thing now that it's canceled, because now we can move on to other versions and maybe get something better. I mean, honestly, there's really no way this could be worse. Even the next girl, come on, y'all. The next mutation was more respectful to the characters than Rise. That's my hot take. Next mutation is better than Rise. Hey everybody, it's Editing Rogue again. I just wanted to say that I am also working on videos detailing, or like going over, I guess, the 2012 TMNT, but also the 2003 one. I think that one's going to come out first. I'm going to kind of go into a deep dive on how I came to be a fan and all that stuff, and keep out for that. So, yeah.